I know it's been a long day, so I'm really glad that you all have hung in there with us. And I really hope that you got to learn a lot about the Engineering Education Systems and Design program at Arizona State University. I'm really excited that we got to share all of the wonderful things that we do here at ASU, all of our research, and all the opportunities that you can have if you choose to join us at in the EESD program. So to sort of wrap it up, we want you to hear a little bit about some of our current students. And so Dr. Artiles will be facilitating this specific student panel. So one second. Oh, you know what? I had added the names. Give me a second to refresh my page. Okay. There we go. Okay, take it away.
All right, so let me see. We got one more that was on her way to joining in, but I'm going to go ahead and have them introduce themselves. So Jen, how about you kick us off?
So so now we're just doing introduction. Like
Yeah,
we're not starting yet. Okay.
Well, yeah, so please tell us your name. Let me just give you a little bit of guidance, put some structure here.
Okay.
Your name, where you're from, and like a quick pitch on who you're working with and what you're doing.
Oh, hi everyone. Nice to meet you here. My name is Jen, and I'm from China, and I'm working with Dr. Adam Carberry, and my research focus. So my dissertation focus is in how engineering mentorship experience impact on engineering graduate students' leadership development. And my research project, the research project which I got funded on, is Engineer Research Center Performance Evaluation. Thank you.
All right, we'll have Madeline next.
Hi, y'all. My name is Madeline Jennings. My pronouns are they, them. I am a second-year PhD student in the EESD program. I got my undergraduate degree at Texas State University in manufacturing engineering. And I'm being co-advised by both Nadia Kellum and Sarain Jayasuriya, who is a colleague in the Arts, Media, and Engineering program at the Tempe campus. And I am researching the queer experience in engineering, as well as critical theory and some Marxist theory as well.
All right, do I see Cecilia?
Hi there, I'm Cecilia, and I am actually from Florida, not born and raised there. I guess I was raised there, but not weird stuff. Anyway, I was from Florida, came out here, and I've been at ASU for the past 2 of my degrees in software engineering, and now I'm doing my PhD here. I'm currently a second year, and I'm working with Sean Jordan in the STEAM lab, specifically exploring what is a hackathon and trying to build out that field.
And Katrina, last but not least.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Hi everyone, my name is Katrina Thomas. I'm a second year graduate student in EESD. I'm also concurrently getting my master's in human systems engineering. I missed part of the thing, so I'm just gonna for you all if I forgot something, let me know. So yeah, I'm originally from Philadelphia, East Coast. I went to school, did my undergrad at University of Pittsburgh, and I worked in industry for 2 years, and now I'm here at ASU. I work in the Space Lab, which stands for Shifting Perceptions, Attitudes, Cultures, and Engineering with Dr. Brooke Coley. My specific research interests are inclusive environments and engineering, and my dissertation focus is related to the Black experience in leadership and engineering. And I think that's it. If I forgot something, let me know.
You got it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with the first question. Why did you pick ASU? And I'm going to leave it open-ended to whoever wants to jump in first.
I guess I'll start. I have a very unique experience. So I started my PhD in industrial engineering degree. It's an industrial engineering program at ASU as well. So I spent a couple of years over there, and I started to feel like industrial engineering PhD program wasn't really a fit for me. Then at that time, and Dr. Becky introduced me to engineering education program at ASU. So I start to involve in their seminars and start to talk with faculties. And after one semester getting just interaction with them, I feel like, hey, this is a place I want to be. And I feel like this is a place I can really shape my career and really fit who I am and where my passion is at. So then I just switched my major to here.
All right, thanks, Jen.
I can go next. So my story is a little bit long and convoluted, but basically what happened is I was interning at a steel mill. I really loved it. I was doing metallurgical and manufacturing engineering, and long story short, I came out as queer and I got fired and found engineering education at Texas State University. And my advisor there, Dr. Kim Talley, had connections here at ASU and connected me and referred me. My partner is also here located in Phoenix. And so I'd been to Phoenix a couple of times. I absolutely loved it out here. I knew I wanted to move out here. And it was just really, really awesome that ASU had an engineering education program. Phoenix is awesome. Tempe is awesome. I live in Chandler. And so we're at the Polytechnic campus and the commute is like super easy. The Polytechnic campus is beautiful, and overall, like my experience here at ASU has been just fantastic. It's also the only place that I applied because I knew I wanted to go here. So I, happy I got in, happy here. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you. All right, so I guess we got Katrina. Cecilia's doing a not it.
Katrina always does it. I had to.
You beat me this time. Yeah, so why I chose ASU, well, honestly, I chose ASU for my advisor. So for me, like, I knew I wanted to do engineering education, and in undergrad, engineering education hadn't, I guess, blossomed in the way that it is now. So it was like, I went to work instead, and there is just divine timing. And I got connected to Dr. Coley through another mentor, and y'all find that the engineering education space is very tiny. Everyone knows each other, and it's crazy. Every time I talk to someone new, I just see how small that circle is. So for me, it was very important to have an advisor that had a shared identity with me. And as a Black woman in engineering, it's not very common. So I'm very fortunate for that. And another thing was, it was the first time I could see my story in the lens of like actual engineering research. So that was exciting for me. That drives a lot of my passion. And yeah, it is a completely new world from the East Coast, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm excited. So yeah, that's why I chose ASU.
So I saved myself for last on purpose, actually, because I've been at ASU for my past 2 degrees. I did my software engineering bachelor's and master's through the 4+1 program here. And while I enjoyed my program, there were also instances where I didn't. And I decided that I kind of wanted to get into research after having a research experience in computer vision. And I explored a lot of research fields, but the one that I kept coming back to was engineering education. I've actually been working with Sean since my junior year. When I first started studying hackathons, I had impure motive. I wanted ASU to pay me to go to hackathons. I'm still working on that, but I also really enjoy the environment. And I think that academia could learn from them. And so my relationship with Sean has been amazing since the start. And I didn't want to spend the effort to get to know another person when I had such a great working relationship. And I found that other fields, I didn't fit in as strongly as I did in the engineering education field. So here I am, still in Tempe, technically Mesa, actually. I moved out to Tempe about a year ago.
Well, glad to hear it. We're really happy to have all of you here in our program. So glad you chose us. So my next question can be a little bit different. So here we go. So you all come from engineering disciplines, and some of you have already sort of addressed it, but how did you go about making that decision to transition into engineering education and kind of, to an extent, leaving your home discipline behind?
Well, I guess I'll kick off again. As I just mentioned before, I started my PhD study at industrial engineering program, and during that time, because of so I was lucky. I was lucky enough to have a multiple teaching assistant position while I was doing my study over there, and just teaching. Um, just teaching the class, interacting with students, and also just tutoring them, helping them preparing for their career fair, and also just see them getting success as like a really make me feel like really fulfilling, and that kind of feeling is like not something like, for example, I used to do the data analysis research, data pattern recognition. That was my technical research. So I can run a program one day. I say, hey, I found a pattern today, but that doesn't give me the same kind of fulfilling feelings as I saw my students just take a successful career path. And I realized that, hey, I feel like education is something I'm really passionate about. It's not really these like technical stuff. So then I had a chance to explore the engineering education program. And I realized that, hey, there's the program just doing education research on engineering, like how to teach engineering better and how to make engineering teaching better. That's what I do. That's what I want to do. And hey, I can do this, the thing I want to do, and also getting a degree at the same time and getting paid. I can't find a better combination on that. So I'm here.
We're happy you're here. I want to just kind of point out, when you talked about having a passion for seeing other students succeed, I saw nods across the table with the rest of our student panelists. So I'm just going to jump to Katrina, who was the one who was most heavily nodding there. Just share a little bit about your transition to engineering education.
Yeah, sure. This is a fun path. So my undergraduate degree was in industrial engineering. And once again, since engineering education is still like blossoming, there wasn't opportunities for me to get involved in undergraduate research in engineering education. But I found different spaces to kind of just keep doing the things I liked, which was really just kind of like influencing the culture of engineering. And it just it was even more just it just came to me even more because when I was working, I was like, I'm not happy. I don't know. I'm not doing anything that's making me feeling like I'm making an influence in my field. And I just had this I don't know, quarter life crisis. So, you know, I guess it wasn't that hard of a transition for me because I really wanted to do this type of work. And I guess IE it's a very unique discipline. So I kind of we get our fingers into every little discipline. And then it's also as much as I do the technical stuff, I find that the research here is just as challenging and just as thought-provoking. And I definitely see the fruits of my labor a lot more doing this type of work. So I'm just even more motivated to keep doing it. So yeah. Also too, coming from IE and then also getting my master's in human systems, it's okay, great. And then now with EESD, I'm just basically using all those pieces from my undergraduate and my master's program to fuel what I want to do with my PhD. So it all works. It worked out. Don't know how, but it worked out.
All right, thanks for sharing. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. I really love everything that Katrina just said because a lot of what she said resonates with kind of my experience as well. I forgot to mention this, but I'm also doing my master's in human systems engineering, and I love it. My background, like I said, is in manufacturing and metallurgical engineering. I loved the metallurgical engineering part, but it was very the workplace culture sucked. It was so bad, and I found myself feeling very unhappy with knowing that I was going into a career that I just wasn't happy with the people I was working with. I wasn't happy with the workplace culture. I loved the work, and I was passionate about the work, but I didn't like the image of myself that I saw 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And then on top of that, I was very disenchanted with the way that engineering was being taught in my classes. I didn't like sitting there and just being, you know, like force fed, like rote memory, you know, formulas and stuff like that. I wanted something a lot more interactive and hands-on, because that's how I personally learn best. And so when I got fired and moved into engineering education, I absolutely fell in love with it, because I've also always had like an interest in inclusion and diversity. And the work that I was doing was very focused on how we can incorporate inclusion and diversity into engineering curriculum. And that was something that was really fascinating to me, because it's not something that I ever really thought about, just because it hadn't been talked about in any of our classes. And so when I came here and I joined HSE and EESD, the focus on inclusion and diversity really just kind of sparked my love for engineering again, because I saw that there is another way to do engineering, and there is another way to teach engineering that can really focus on the people that need the engineering the most, right? And so that's my research focus. That's what I'm really passionate about. And I really feel like I've made a home for myself here in this particular field. I'm very passionate about the technical side of things, but I'm also really passionate about the socio-technical and socio-political impacts of engineers and engineering work. And I really feel like this space just creates such a warm and comforting and inclusive environment for people like me, people like Katrina, who are, you know, really interested in this kind of research. And yeah, so I'm really happy here.
All right, thank you, Madeline.
So I guess I'm last again. This
Yes,
time,
you are.
not because I said not, I wasn't going. So like I had mentioned in my introduction, initially I had impure motives, but I also was genuinely very curious. I was meeting people who would come to these coding events, and they would walk up and they'd be like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's like, okay. And then 3 days later, they would leave that event and be like, I totally know everything about this one specific topic. And I was floored, because I had been dealing with imposter syndrome in my engineering degree. I like constantly was comparing myself, which is not healthy at all for engineering. And I hate that that's something that's kind of learned or brought upon in not just my degree, but many people's degrees. That there's always this comparative and competitive aspect, when I think that there might be different ways to go about it. And as I got more and more involved in going to hackathons, somehow I found myself organizing them. And I have been organizing the one here at ASU for 4 years now, more than that, actually, maybe, since I've been here so long. Now I feel old. Okay. So I've been organizing Sun Hacks for a while, and thanks to my interests, I've been able to help guide us toward being purposely inclusive, because at the start we were new, we didn't know what we were doing. And as we've kept building on our like versions, we've decided we really want to make sure that coding, and maybe even just engineering as a whole, can be implemented in a safer way, in a more positive way, where it doesn't matter where you're coming from, whether it's STEM or not, that you should be able to feel like you belong and build a project that you think might save the world, even if it's a prototype. And so with that in mind, and me transitioning into the engineering education program, initially feeling hesitancy because it wasn't technical. It is, we do a little bit in social sciences through our statistics and through quantitative studies and stuff, even with qualitative. And so there was that hesitancy, but at the same time, there's so much stuff to learn and new ways to evaluate things that I really enjoyed. It challenges me each and every time. And each and every time Madeline and Katrina in our classes challenge me, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what you just said, but I want to know. And so it's an awesome learning experience, not just from the faculty, but from my peers. From Jen always has awesome feedback in our seminars. There's so many instances that I can just absorb so much more from them. And so I've taken everything that I've learned from Katrina and Madeline's missions for DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, to keeping more active in the technological sphere, because I still really like coding. to imbue that into Sun Hacks. And so this past year, I was purposely like, all right, I learned about disability accessibility and how else can we include disabled people, holding up ASU's inclusion statement and mission. So with that, I tested everything we could in our virtual event to be more disability accessible without having to wait for someone to ask for it, because everyone should have an equal opportunity to learn. So I've kind of been going back and forth where I'm like, oh, I can change things in the hackathon sphere through what I'm learning. And then from what I'm learning from me experimenting, I can also be like, okay, but now I want to go to other hackathons and research what they're doing and start comparing and building a better community overall. From the community that I'm part of, it's not only just nationwide, it's actually global. So I have plenty of opportunity to share the findings that I have, the experiments that I'm running, but not actually running, and share it with a wider community and change not just my local one, but the global one. So I have a lot of fun with that. And it brings me a lot of joy and purpose that I didn't have when I was in software, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I still like coding, but I'm one of those people who dabbles everywhere. As many of my peers will realize that I'm literally everywhere. So yeah,
That's great to hear. As you all were talking, I was just kind of catching bits and pieces, and what I kept seeing as a common theme is that you love engineering, but you also hate the way that it's taught in some ways, and you want to see people succeed in it, and you want to be part of the change, and you want to be change agents in that. So if any of the prospective students here in this call feel that any of these things that I'm just saying, or any of the stories that our panelists are sharing as something that you identify with, you're in the right space. So it's a hard decision to make to leave your traditional discipline behind. But once you do, look at their smiling faces. All right, so let's take some of the questions that got dropped here in the chat. Let's see. All right, so here's one question. Which year is the hardest one in the major milestones? And so to preface this, I want you to share a little bit about how far along in the program you are, because I know that'll influence a little bit about what you're going to answer.
Second year. So I haven't gone through, and I'm also in my master's right now. So I haven't gone through many of the major milestones. So I'm going to sit this question out.
also a second year, but not during masters. I've just gone through the classes. I'm actually going to be taking the qualifying exam this January, which I'm a little bit terrified for, but that's because I'm a bad test taker. So I'm doing prep work for that. Definitely that's my most daunting task ahead of me. But the classes also challenged me that first year because I was switching from like software engineering, documentation and planning and modeling to learning how to do research in quantitative and qualitative studies, which is a little bit of a left field. At least it was for me.
I'm the third year. I'm going to finish my third year at the end of this year. I passed my qualify last year, I believe, and I'm working on my way to schedule my comprehensive next year. So if you're asking me which is the hardest milestone, I would say the next one. Because so you will have, so I don't know, maybe people, like everyone's different, but for me, like every time you're looking to where to go for a milestone, you will be nervous, and you will have that anxious over there. But once you start preparing for it, you're getting through it. I don't think anything is, I would necessarily say, hard, as long as you put the work. And our faculty members like doing a really good job in supporting and helping you. And I wouldn't say I wouldn't say so far the qualify, I wouldn't say it's hard. I would just say, and I'm not thinking about, I would say I'm thinking of it as hard, but because I haven't done it yet. But based on my experience, I had the same feeling before I did my qualify. But after it, I would say, it's not as hard as I thought. But you have to put work, you have to put effort and work in there. If you just go in there and say, hey, I'm good, I can't guarantee you that's not hard for you. But as long as you put the work, and don't worry about too much about the difficulty level, because you'll have like you'll have a great like a support and a guidance around you to help you get like go through it. So if that's something you really worry about, I wouldn't I would say like you don't have to.
Yeah, I'm also a second year, same kind of pathway as Madeline. So I have not hit like the major milestones within my PhD, but I just want to piggyback off of what Jen was saying, like, because like I'm not necessarily nervous about the milestones. I know that they're upcoming because there's just literally so much support that like we've been getting poured into since day one. So it's more like it's not necessarily a hard milestone. It's more of like, okay, this is just the next step of the process in my head. And it's like, I think that's one perk of our program because it's so small, like everyone wants everyone to succeed. So from the faculty, from your cohort, your other classmates, the other students in the program, like everyone's just available to always just help you out, whatever you need. So I know that's been really helpful for me, and just because even though we're small within a huge university of ASU, like ASU has a ton of resources available. So like I've taken like seminars on, all right, how do I write a lit review? How do I format APA? Like all of those things are available, and like it's helped me tremendously. So I know like as those milestones come up, it's just like, all right, cool. I already have something in place. I already have an idea in place. It's just going through the motions at that point.
All right, I'm gonna take us back. Let's see here.
I just want to make
yep.
one action. So I don't know whether our I'm sorry. I don't know whether our answers actually answer your questions. If you feel like you need more clarification, just let us know. We'll be happy to throw extra stuff in there.
Awesome. All right, so there's one question that I really like, but I'm going to leave that one for last. How was the application process for you?
I don't remember it. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember it. I think it was pretty quick. That I don't remember deliberation or anything else like that, unfortunately. I think we had to write an essay. That was, yeah, I don't remember.
I know for me, it was crazy just because so I was working and it was like our peak season. So I was working maybe 12 to 16 hours a day. And I was like, okay, I have to study for my GRE, put in this application, all this, da 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 da. And I got it done. So it's not as, it's very straightforward. And like I said, like I had support throughout the whole thing. So I was like, okay, great. I have this. Is this everything I need? Like people, like we can help you out. It's very straightforward. It's very, honestly, the fact that I was able to get it in and going through all of that as well, I was like, that is crazy. So it was very straightforward. It's not as like nerve wracking as some other applications I've seen.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. It was pretty straightforward. I think the hardest part of it was the GRE for me. And that's just because I was in my last semester, I had senioritis. I was like, I'm not going to study for the GRE. And I definitely should have. Study for your GRE. Definitely study for your GRE. But the application itself is pretty straightforward. And like Katrina said, there's a lot of support here at ASU within the program and also outside of the program that can really help you shape your application into, for lack of a better word, a winning application, if that makes sense.
I don't know who in the current faculty is going to let our current students know that we've waived the GRE for this next round of applications. So sorry. All right.
Lucky y'all.
We trade.
So one of the questions in the chat is whether any of you have kids or know anybody in the program that has children, and how do you feel the culture at ASU helps you have a work-life balance? And I want to acknowledge up front, if we do have students that do have children and families, so if that is somebody that you want us to plug us in with, do let us know. We try to get some of them here today, but unfortunately Friday, and it's been a weird week. So we can definitely connect you with them. Just let us know, send us an email or put it in the chat that you want to get plugged into those folks. So go ahead, folks.
I can't speak to the children part. I have cats, and I have a spouse, but I don't have children. But I will say that from my experience, the program values work-life balance. And I think it depends on your advisor, who you pick for your advisor as well. But Nadia and Seraine, my co-chairs, have been absolutely wonderful and supportive. So full disclosure, I do struggle with mental and physical disabilities. And so there are times when I can't, put forth the effort that I need to, or, like I can't get the work done because I physically or mentally can't. And my advisors in the program are very understanding of that, and they're very lenient. That is not to say that the work is not rigorous or challenging. It just means that from my experience, my advisors, the people that I interact with, have been very understanding of the fact that I'm a human and I have a life and I have complications that arise. And so I hope that answers your question.
To second that, definitely. I know Sean's here, and I'm not just saying it just because he's here, but I really enjoy having Sean as my advisor. He's always been really willing to work with me. I actually pushed myself too hard that first year of PhD, and I've been pushing myself really hard since before then, and came into this year before everything that has happened, kind of thinking I would take a few steps back and be a little kinder to my ability to do everything. And take it a little bit easy, knowing that I would be confronting quals later and stuff. And so I started out the semester with, I don't know how things are going to be. I think I need a little bit more time. If I'm delivering late, just give me some patience and space to do this. And I assure you that I will get it to you as soon as I can. It's just that there are some days where if I send 3 emails, that's a miracle. Especially coming in August. I was coming off of an internship where I was just going for 3 months and I was exhausted. I was burned out. And that was definitely because of COVID and working from home and still learning to balance that. And something that the department has been working on is in our seminars, trying to figure out, and even in our lab, we've been talking about like, so what have you been doing to, address burnout or dealing with all this going on? And we've been not candid, but we have been forward and mentioning like, yeah, I need a mental health day or a few mental health days. There's a lot going on. And we've been pretty respectful of that. And I really appreciate that we can have that working relationship across our lab, that's understood and it's not shamed, which is something that tends to persist in some graduate programs where mental health is not at the forefront when it really should be. So yeah. Oh, also with regards to childcare, no, I don't have children. I have a cat. She's sleeping. She is sometimes a pain. I also have a partner doing a PhD as well, which can be really, really difficult sometimes. That said, like Maida mentioned, we do have some students who do have children. ASU does have childcare services on Tempe campus. I don't know about Polytechnic. I haven't seen anything explicit, but I do know that there are options available for a variety of things, at least from my time at ASU, from what I've seen walking around when I was an undergrad and master's, and even still now when I go on campus.
Actually, oh, go ahead.
Well, I don't have kids either, but I can talk about like actually the part of the question, work-life balance, really popped up, and really it just made me start thinking of something. I can definitely talk about something to that, because I don't know how much how much you all familiar with. I'm from China, like Chinese culture, that there's no work balance and there's no work-life balance. Your work is your life. And so that's who I am. And I'm here by myself. All my families are in China, are still back home. And I'm here by myself. I don't have a kids. I don't even have a pet. I don't have anyone I need to take care of. So I'm just by myself. And so I basically just fit everything in my schedule, like work-related stuff, school-related stuff in my schedule, and that's what I do. And my advisor, Dr. Adam Carberry, he actually had spend an hour or two, like sit with me just to talk to me. Like I have to start thinking about what is life. Like work is not like life is not just work. He asked me to think about what is my life and how I want to live my life like more meaningful than just go on the work. And he also shared with me how he balanced his work and life. And I think all of you have met him earlier, like today, and he's a huge work-life balance person. And his life is way like vivid and like lively than like I can ever imagine like a faculty member can have. So he's a huge like advocate for work-life balance, and he he mentored me to do that. So I wouldn't say at this moment I have a vivid life as well, but I'm getting there. So I think, and that's one thing. And so not just Dr. Carberry, all the faculty members here, Dr. Bonhaver, I used to chat with her a lot, and she also just share with her thoughts and tips to me, like how to get work-life balance. And also both of them are very flexible to work with my schedule. Like when you have something come up, just let them know, and they're very willing to like be mindful of what's happening in your life, and to be flexible to work along with your schedule. And that's something I really appreciate. I really appreciate them. And I don't really have that kind of a relationship with my old advisor. And that was kind of a really rigid schedule. If you missed, you missed, and there's no makeups.
And when you say old advisor, just to be clear, this is not EESD, correct?
No.
Okay.
I never switched the advisor in EESD after I joined the EESD programs. And I'm talking about industrial engineering. My old advisor, he had he's a very rigid on the schedule and the stuff, and just I wouldn't say he's not being mindful to my need. I don't think I feel like I definitely get way more support and guidance and mentoring, especially mentoring from the faculty member in EASD.
All right, Katrina.
I'm just gonna copy paste what everyone else said, but just to kind of like touch on, I also don't have children. I have not crossed that milestone yet. I have cats though, crossed that one. Honestly, if you're a cat lover, you will fit in quite well in this program. But I'll say, just to touch on work-life balance a little bit more as well, I would say I think they said it's like, can't call it work-life balance, like work-life integration. And I think that just like speaks even more true now because of the time that we're in. So like, my Madeline's and Cecilia's, like our first year got turned upside down with COVID. And I don't want to speak for them, but like, I know for me, it was very, that transition and just kind of like the care and compassion that the department and the poly school just showed, and that was just like phenomenal. And I still felt like I was able to still learn, do the things I needed to do to make progress with my degree, but also now I have people tell me like, have you eaten a day? Have you taken a break? Like, have you slept? Are you feeling okay? Like that, like I get those conversations a lot because I am a little bit of a workaholic, but it is like everyone cares about you here, which is really, really important. And I saw a question about cats' names. My cats' names are Jen and Juice. They're orange and they're really fat.
All right, so I'm going to wrap this up with one question that I really like that I saw somewhere up here. And it says, what is the biggest thing you've learned in the program so far? Or the most important? We'll leave it at that open-ended space. Everybody's looking at the ceiling. Okay.
Be mindful, be mindful, be mindful of other people, be mindful of differences, and even be mindful of um, just like, I don't know how to say this, put into a word, but I like to make it rhyme with a word. But well, I'm an ESL, I'm so sorry, I can't make that happen. But what I'm trying to say is, I used to be a person that my way is the right way, and that's it, and that's the only way. But after joining the EESD, especially along with all the research and interacting, and I realized that there are a lot of different ways, and they're all right ways, and just be mindful with other people. And that also helped. That also helped with my research as well. Because doing research, you can't just see what you want to see. That's a dangerous part. And I actually fall into that loophole one time, like a couple times. But now I'm really start aware of that.
Thank you. That's very insightful.
What kind of a question is that to leave us on? That's such a big question.
I thought you were going to ask us, what do you like about campus? So now I'm answering that one in chat because that one's easier.
Oh gosh, there are so many things that I could say to answer that question. But I think that the most pertinent and the most important thing that I've learned is to be open-minded and flexible. Like we were talking about earlier, the shift from a very quantitative, very, positivist, very, straightforward way of thinking to a research mindset or a qualitative mindset is you have to be really flexible. And it's interesting because we're at such an interdisciplinary field that we have to bounce back and forth between the two. And that's a lesson that I'm still learning. I'm still struggling with it. But I'm learning, and it's making me a better thinker, a better citizen, a better person, a better researcher. I would say that that's probably the biggest thing that this program has taught me. Yeah.
I think Cecilia's still typing away, so I can give an answer. It's not a perfect answer because I really don't know how to answer that question.
That's fine.
But I'll say I think one of the things that I don't know if I learned or just appreciate, it's definitely understanding that in engineering education, that just because something hasn't been done doesn't mean that you can't do it. So I feel like just kind of where we're at and, our position and all of that, we're kind of at a really transformative time, and not letting that be discouraging, but encouraging to be like, okay, I don't like something, I actually can make a difference. I can actually do something about it. And all I gotta do is just ask a question or, talk to someone. And it's not as hard as when I first came in, I kind of had, and I also had this industry brain too, where I was like, there's so much red tape, I can't do this, that, and the third. But now I'm like, wait, I can do this? Y'all are giving me my full autonomy to do what I want. Cool. Okay, not what I want. There's still IRB and things like that. But ultimately, I do have a lot of control over the thing, over my own pathway, which is encouraging. It's exciting. It's terrifying, but it's fun. So I don't know if I answered the question, but that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Long awaited, but I think I finally have something because that was really hard and not fair. I did not. No, I don't like the, no, I'm kidding. It's a good question. It really is. So during the first year, I think within the first few months, meeting the rest of the cohort, which two of them are here, Katrina and Madeline, and coming from the software engineering degree and admittedly kind of feeling lonely and kind of feeling bad about how I was in that degree with a lot of comparative aspects, imposter syndrome, et cetera, all the bad feelings that sometimes come from engineering, was that I was in a place that I belonged and that I was meeting people who were like-minded, but had diverse paths that I would have never considered. And so each and every time I interact with them, and even again, beyond that year of students, I'm really, really thankful that they were my cohort and they still are, which we're trying to work on scheduling a socially distanced picnic because I really enjoy their company. It was really important to me to find a group that I would mesh with. And it's not a matter of competitiveness. Like, we're all in completely different tracks of what we're studying. And it's because of what they're learning and they're studying that I can go, oh, wow, that's a really cool paper. Or like that thing that you told me about. Can you tell me about that paper so I can leverage it in whatever it is that I'm doing? Not to take over their thing, but to have a new perspective on how I should approach my own work. Because of, like I said, the DEI work that they're both doing, that they're both studying, I've been able to push that to my team with Sunhacks and the other organizers. And they're like, wow, I didn't know we could do this. All right, I'm so glad we're going this route. I really want to see all these things happen. And now I have the ability and knowledge to guide them toward that direction. So I love that I have a really nice group of people. I can't speak for other years if they have that same like nice community just in that year. But I definitely really like ours. I know it's not quite a learning thing, but it was important to me to have that group because I don't think I would have stayed if I hadn't. I definitely would have been like, is this for me? Maybe I can manage the next 4 years alone or 5 years alone. But this is definitely like superseded any instance of like, I don't belong here, or anytime my brain's lying to me that I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing the PhD. It's because of all the things I've learned from them and done that I stay continuously. That it's not that I'm not good enough, it's that I'm still learning and still becoming better and growing into a better researcher.
Thank you for those answers, guys. They're awesome. And yes, so somebody commented earlier how they love the energy, and yes, this is why I work with grad students, y'all. I just love the grad student energy, especially grad students that really love what they do. They just make my day. So thank you so much for volunteering and being here today and sharing your experience and for sharing your emails. So I know some of y'all's advisors are on the call, but I'm going to take it that your answers were genuine. But if you want to make sure that they are, feel free to send anybody an email, and I'm sure they'd be happy to chat a little bit more about the program, living in Arizona, and all sorts of information. So with that, we are almost at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to hang back if somebody has any questions about anything that we talked about today at all, or about scheduling a meeting for next week with any of the faculty. Other than that, we were very happy to have you all join us today and get to learn a little bit more about what we do here and how we're truly trying to change engineering education for the better. So do you have anything else, Dina?
Oh, I was trying to unmute myself. It's so difficult to have the page sharing. No, I'm really happy that you all stuck with us. Those of you coming in and out throughout the day. It's been a long day. We feel it too, but I hope you learned a lot about the program and just new things about what ASU, what EESD has to offer. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time, and also student panel. Thank you for joining us. The faculty panel. Thank you for joining us. I guess we could just hang out, and if you want to start to exit, that's fine. If you want to stick around to have more discussions or just questions that you that popped into your head, we're gonna be here. We're gonna hang out here. So yeah, this is definitely a wrap. But please send us your questions if you still have them. We'll be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, everyone. And for those that are stepping out, have a good afternoon.
Mhm.
All right, so we have one quick question. If I wish to try to join in spring, what would you recommend me to do to get ready? I would certainly say send Dr. Kellum and Dr. Carberry an email and let them know, and they can guide you in the next steps, but we will likely need your application very soon. So I would just send them an email right now and let them know, hey, I went to the open house today. This was very exciting. I want to start in spring. So let them know that that's your intent right now.
start drafting out your personal statement, what you want to do for research. It sounds like you have an idea what you want to do, so it shouldn't be too difficult to like, tease it out. And that's always handy to have. So it's something that can continuously evolve as time progresses.
Desiree, I know you wrote the question earlier about work-life family balance while doing a PhD. Definitely do shoot us a note. We can certainly plug you in with some students that do have family while pursuing a PhD and know that can give you a more holistic answer to that respect. Do you think that a PhD is compatible with another full-time job? Okay, this is also for the current students. I'll let the current students answer this one and we'll take a stab at the end.
I have kind of an answer. So because I like coding a lot, so much so that I can't just let it go. So I specifically do summer internships to kind of get that fill, and also because financially I kind of need it to have that extra bit. So that said, when I was at one internship, I did ask, saying like, how would PhD and job work? Pretty much asking them. So for that job that I had, some jobs will have different full-time hour minimums where that job did. And with the commitment that I was ready to put forth for the PhD, it didn't align. I think they said that it was like a 40-hour work week. And I think they said I had to do a minimum of 30. And so with the classes and knowing that I would be learning a totally different field, it didn't work out. If I had remained as an intern though, then the minimum was different. I had to work a minimum of 13 hours. And then I had a lot more time for classes because that's what I did for my master's. I worked in an internship full year, including summer where it was full-time 40 hours. But during the semesters, I think I worked between 15 and 20 hours, depending on how my week was going, how much homework I had, which software engineering master is a little different than engineering education commitment in terms of coursework. But that said, I do believe that some jobs will have like a minimum hour requirement. I will say that it will take longer to do the courses, especially if you're not familiar with research, because there is kind of that learning buildup, and there is time needed dedicated toward learning how to do research. So I wouldn't recommend it, but I do know that there are people who do that.
I do have a comment. So I'm not familiar with anyone's situation here, but I do know that for students coming in as international students, there is a limitation whether you can work and be a full-time student. So that's just a requirement from the university and from the visa or something of that nature. So I don't, and this is just in general for anyone who comes in as an international student.
I would certainly say talk to your advisor or potential advisor about that question, because it's going to depend on the project and how you would be funded. It's going to depend on the job you hold now. There's a couple of different things that kind of help answer that question. So the more details we have about the specific situation, the better we can give you a more accurate answer. Certainly would say that you have to think about the hours that go into preparing for the classes and the hours that would go into working in your TA or your RA, and the hours that would go into your dissertation research on top of your work hours. So it can add up to be quite a bit, but talk to your potential advisor about that. What days are classes held? Monday through Saturday? I believe they're Monday through Friday. Students could certainly answer that a little bit better. What times are there specific patterns to that for the PhD classes? And so I'm thinking EESD core courses.
Let's see, in general, majority of the PhD core courses is on Monday through Thursday. I think there's only one class will be held on Friday, potentially, but majority of them are Monday through Thursday.
It also depends on what classes you decide to take as part of your electives. So if you're, once you're done with the core courses, if you're taking additional classes outside of EESD, those can vary, but typically it's Monday through Friday. There's really no weekend classes that are common, and you can find yourself at the Tempe campus as opposed to the Mesa campus, depending on the elective course that you select.
I'm like trying to type and respond. I'm gonna type. I have a response for the internship. I'll type it. But for the courses, I know because we're still a new program, they change a lot. So I know at least from last year, depending on the course, we were able to, a lot of them, because once again, everyone knows each other. Um, there's like a set schedule on when we're registering for the courses, and they're typically like either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. But since a lot of us are on the same schedule regardless, some of our professors are able to work together to say like, hey, can we just have our class like this 3-hour block throughout the week or something like that. So there is some flexibility with how the courses have been scheduled. So it really just depends on like the nature of that year.
I guess my AirPods died.
Hi, can I ask a question? I know it's getting pretty late.
Oh, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for doing this. This has been amazing. I really appreciate it. My question is kind of about living in the metro area there on like a grad student stipend budget. Like, how stressful do you find that?
I'll let the students kick off with that.
Metro area is in like the Phoenix area, or
Yeah, like within that, I mean, I'm assuming if I went to went to ASU, I'd live in that vicinity.
so I'm a city girl. Like for me to be out here, I was like, what is happening? There are bugs that are really big out here. But I personally enjoy it. So I love the Poly campus. But when I first moved out here, I lived in the Mesa area. And over the summer, I moved into the Tempe area because I wanted to be closer to like my lifestyle. I like to go into the Phoenix area a lot more. So Tempe is closer to Phoenix. I mean, now since a lot of things are virtual, I don't really go to the Poly campus, but for me, that commute is about 35 minutes, which I was okay with. And it's an opposite direction of traffic. So it's okay. So if you don't mind like that long of a commute, if you don't think that's a long commute, then it's totally doable. But there's also a lot of like up and coming like properties that are in the Poly area if you wanted to live closer to the Poly campus. But it kind of really just depends on like the things that you like, and if you want to be closer to the things that you like or the things that you're studying. I want to be closer to the things that I like. So that's just like my 2 cents on it. But I mean, the Phoenix area is a major metropolitan area. There's a lot of people, but like we also get a lot of like seasonal people. So right now there's just a lot more people with ASU students and then snowbirds coming in. So it's a little condensed. But over the summers when it's really too hot, there's like no one around. So it's just been a very interesting like migration pattern that happens that I've noticed this past year since living out here. But I just got out here a year ago. So I know Cecilia's been here longer than I have.
So Tyler, are you worried about the like a living cost, like a living expenses?
Yeah, that's my primary concern would be budgeting and, not being completely broke.
Well, as Katrina mentioned, that it depends on like where you live at. When you say I recall you talking about like an urban downtown area.
Well, anywhere really. I understand there's a variety of options. Yeah.
So, for example, I live pretty close to the Poly campus because I hate commuting. So I just prefer to live closer to where I work, where I go to school. So I used to live on Tempe campus for a couple of years while I was doing the PhD in industrial engineering. So Tempe definitely costs more living there than Mesa. It's about, I think it's about like we're just talking about rent, it's like a 1/3 more in living in Tempe compared to living in Mesa if you're just talking about living in an apartment. but
I will backtrack because I've lived in Mesa and Tempe. It really depends, but I would like, I know I use the like housing, like they have like free housing help that I use, and they help me find like both my apartments. So yeah, that's how I can afford to be here. But it's definitely something that like I know I took time out before transitioning into my actual program to like make sure I had a place. Like I took like a week to come visit, see the different areas and things like that as part of my preparation and moving.
yeah, and also I think, well, okay, so I'm from a different country, so I haven't been to a lot of places in this country. But as far as I know, Phoenix definitely definitely has one of the low like a living cost compared to a lot of like college towns.
Yeah,
So-
I'd certainly, so I'll
go
share
ahead.
this. I moved from Blacksburg, Virginia, which is fairly rural, and my difference in rent is not as much as you would expect for living in a metro area. Granted, I don't live near Tempe, I live a lot closer to campus. So for whatever that's worth, yeah.
You can definitely find livable places. It's just a matter of other factors playing in. Maybe you want to live close to campus because you don't have a car. And so at that point, you'll have a bit of an offset with regards to that cost. Like Jen said, Tempe is a little more expensive than Mesa area. So like there's where Poly is far out to the east, and then there's the entirety of Mesa, which is like the size of a county, depending on where you're from. And so that can span a decent amount, but there's a lot of student housing oriented living there. So I actually live 5 minutes from Tempe campus because I searched for weeks and possibly months because I was really, really bent on finding a good price close to campus and fitting very specific things. The thing that I gave up was maintenance, but I am an engineer and I can fix most things. And also my partner is also an engineer, so we manage. We are two PhD students living off of graduate income, where the internships that I do kind of give us that extra buffer of offsetting that. That said, like there is absolutely affordable housing that you can find. You just, I think what I was given as an estimate was like, start looking 2 months early, just to like, you can start looking earlier to see what's around, get an idea of the reviews, etc. But by looking 2 months early, you'll start to see what places are coming up frequently. There's also student housing around Tempe campus, specifically where it's like you can pay for the room if you feel like having roommates. There's Facebook groups to find roommates as well, to share houses, which greatly reduces the cost of living. I think one of our PhD students is rooming with 2 other ASU students toward the Mesa area. I think they have one's on Tempe campus doing their degree. She's doing her degree with us. And I don't know what her other roommate is, but there are options to help you figure it out, depending on what's going on. If you have a family, ASU Poly does have family housing, which is rent-based, and I think also utilities. There's also ASU's housing itself, which you would be assigned a roommate, which I did for 5 years. And that was about the same as if I were to rent without utilities. And most of it was covered. So if you want to go that route, I know that or at least one of our students is doing that. And so you pay upfront housing cost per semester. And I think it's like, I think it is in total what you would have paid for like 8 to 9 months average or low average rent without utilities. Because I calculated that because I'm like, is it better for me to leave campus or is it worse? How bad is it? And it was pretty on par. I think it's obviously cheaper with more rooms per person kind of thing. But yeah, it checks and balances.
Do you guys want to share roughly how much is the student stipend for y'all? Ballpark? Just so it just gives a better idea when people go on Google and see like, okay, rent is so much in Gilbert, which is another area you probably want to look into because it's only like 5 minutes from, well, it's actually the street over from the Poly campus. So yeah, to the extent that y'all feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nothing in my culture, so I have no problem to share with that. My paycheck is after tax. My paycheck is about $800 something, like 800 and plus a little. So it's a little over 800 every 2 weeks. That's my paycheck after tax. And what Cecilia said was it's actually a great point, because when I decided to move out to Mesa, closer to the campus, I didn't know that Mesa offering amazing price for their house, like for the on-campus housing. So I didn't know that. So I live off campus. But one of my friend who actually lives on campus, even though he's also a grad student, he's living on campus at Poly campus. His rent is like amazingly reasonable. He's only paid like 400 per month. And I said, well, too bad I can't dump my roommate. Otherwise, I will move to the campus too.
Yeah, and I'll certainly say, if you're a domestic student, there are different opportunities to fund yourself beyond just taking on one research assistantship or teaching assistantship position. So something to keep in mind.
Oh yeah. Dr. Achilles is definitely make the right point. So I'm an international student. I can only take one assistantship job. So that's my paycheck is a little about 800 every 2 weeks. But like Cecilia, Katrina, they all take like more than 20 hours a week. So they definitely have more time. They have more money. So I'm the broke one here.
I'm limited to 20 hours. So I get about the same that you do. Yeah, I'm a half-time research assistantship. Yes, so I make money in other ways because I have the knowledge to do so. Like I do like really small scale investing in stocks, use interest from dividends, blah, blah, blah. I do like, what's it called? I do crafts. So I also will sometimes take commissions to sell things that I make for people. And that's other forms of income. So you don't have to just do assistantship or TA-ship, but it does support a majority of my income and my ability to attend school and take my classes and meet what I need to do. So that definitely takes the burden of having to find a job during the school year off of my back. I purposely choose to do internships because I have a pathway laid out that I think is necessary for me to still do internships to maintain my industry connections. So I make that choice, knowing that if I needed it, I would work with my advisor, with Dr. Jordan, to figure out how I can supplement for summer income and make sure that I'm not like missing out or going further into debt or something or anything like that, really. At the risk of making a claim, it is your advisor's job to work with you to find funding. I hope I'm not wrong in that. I'm pretty sure, like, maybe, okay. Because I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the expectation and I want to be right because but I also don't want to put anybody on the bus.
As long as you make degree progress, your advisor will help you find funding. You just show you're a formidable student and you continue making progress, and that should not be a problem. And
I was just gonna also add too, like, there's also like the national fellowships as well. So like, I know my advisor helped me when I was applying for some. I didn't get it, but still they're out there. ASU also does a lot of work as well in preparing students for those fellowships. So like the major ones like GRFP, Ford, Hertz, Fulbright, like they're always doing like workshops, and they have like special tutoring hours and things like that to help students prepare for those things. Oh, GEM, yes.
GEMS is very specific, and you must be doing it before you apply. You need to apply to 3 different research schools to be eligible for this. You can get a waiver if you are in your first year, but you have to get permission from the college that you are attending to do that. Okay, the end.
So beyond cost of living, cost of living, do you have any more questions or different questions? Oh, you're muted.
I don't have any more questions. I don't want to take up any more of your time. It's been very helpful. Thank you so much.
All right, glad that was useful for everyone. And yes, goodbye, Tiago. It was great meeting you as well. All right.
All right, take care.
Okay, everybody have a good Friday and don't watch too much news.
Have
a good evening,
everyone.
Bye. Thank you for joining us.